X-Men. Get it!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we read every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. And Adam,
Yes, Zach.
do you know why I'm talking in this very snooty accent?
Because today we're going to talk about some very snooty people in the X universe.
That's right. Today we are talking about the Hellfire Club. I'm not doing that for that long.
No, we can't keep that up for the whole episode, thank goodness. But yeah, this is and some weird formations of the Hellfire Club today too.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. When we say we're talking about the Hellfire Club, I mean we're not talking about the Hellfire Club that you think we are.
Yeah, it's an institution beloved by the rich and the famous who maybe don't want to know people to know that they're in it, but at the same token, these three formations of it are very weird.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. This is Hellfire adjacent and Snooty person adjacent.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what are some of the things that come to mind when you think of the classic Hellfire Club? You think of the White Queen and the Black King and all this stuff and the whole chessboard kind of motif they've got going on.
Yep.
And you think about kinky sex stuff because look, that's what they are.
It's hard to avoid. That's definitely part of the theming. And it's my understanding that there's a historical antecedent to all of this, that there is an actual Hellfire Club that Claremont sort of based this concept on.
No, he based it off of a concept from the 1960s TV show, The Avengers.
Oh.
It was just an episode from that.
But I believe there is an actual Hellfire Club. So
I don't know.
If people want to Google that, it is an interesting thing. But yeah, I think when we think traditionally of the Hellfire Club, we're thinking about Sebastian Shaw, we're thinking about Emma, and whoever is the ancillary court at that time. You know, that makes up the leadership.
I had a thought about this earlier today.
Yeah.
So what's a combination of black and white?
Gray. Yeah.
Which is not in here. And I thought it would be very interesting combining interests. If the protagonist, Christian Grey, from the novels 50 Shades of Grey, was a member of the Hellfire Club. Now, hear me out. I've not read any of these books. My wife has watched all the movies and told me they are horrible. Here's what I know about Christian Grey. 1, he has a color-coded name. 2, he's rich. 3, dude's into bondage.
That checks out.
So I'm pretty sure that Christian Grey should be joining the Hellfire Club. And then he can recruit some mousy reporter to be his Tessa or his Sage.
Hey, look, if Brian Braddock can have an honorary membership from his lineage, then sure, the protagonist from Twilight fan fiction, made novel, made movie, can definitely have a membership too.
Look, all I'm saying is it would make sense. Look at some of the famous members of the Hellfire Club. The Braddocks, the Starks. You know Tony Stark is a member of the Hellfire Club?
He should. Well, yeah, he's got money, That's what it's all about.
The Worthingtons are members of the Hellfire Club. Look, the Hellfire Club's got a lot of stuff going on with it. But we should probably get into some of this stuff, right?
Well, it's funny, we're getting all of this set up to the classic idea of the Hellfire Club, but where we're going to start is with the arc in Excalibur that leads up to the 100th issue that kind of doesn't have anything to do with either original flavor Hellfire Club or even the Upstarts version of the Hellfire Club. This is the Warren Ellis, there's a British branch of Hellfire Club that we've never heard of before.
Yeah, it's the London Hellfire Club in the story London's Burning from Excalibur 96 to 100. It's an Onslaught tie-in, which is
boy.
wild. We've not talked about Onslaught yet.
No, we haven't touched that at all. And issue 100, I didn't realize that this was an Onslaught tie-in. And when we got to 100, I was like, oh boy, where'd that come from?
It comes out of nowhere. But do you know who we have to thank about this whole story coming out of nowhere?
I do not. Who's requesting this particular story?
Eric Hassan went on over to patreon.com/Xavier Files. He threw some money this way and said, hey guys, let's talk about this weird Hellfire Club. And we most happily obliged.
Yeah, and believe me, I was in for a surprise in page one of page one of issue 96. Opening the cover and finding Mountjoy on page one. I was like, this guy is back.
You remember Mountjoy from the Bishop series?
Yeah. He gets a little splash page here and says it's a tasty world. And we're led to believe that he's undercover in this London version of Hellfire Club. And this sure is a story, Zach.
Yeah, so right now, Excalibur is Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Megan, Brian Braddock, I think he's going by Britannic right now, which is dumb, ain't it?
Hey,
Doug,
it's the 90s.
Douglock is there, Pete Wisdom's there, Lockheed is around and stealing cigarettes.
And mumbling things in a British accent, which we could talk about.
Wolfsbane is around.
Yes, Mariah McTaggart is in the house because we're on Muir Island. And did I just basically get the plot right here that there's a Hellfire Club in London that is trying to release like the devil and hellfire, literal hellfire, and to destroy London? I mean, that's kind of the plot, right?
So here's what. There's a secret London Hellfire Club, which is great. Like, I love that conceit. But they don't like the chessboard kind of motif. They go with the cards motif of black and red, which, okay, I'm into that. Anyway, Mountjoy, you remember Mountjoy, is definitely impersonating one of the members of the Hellfire Club, and Brian Braddock gets roped into jumping into the Hellfire Club to try and figure out who Mountjoy is.
Yes. And there is this very convoluted plot that involves Warren Ellis's creation of, I'm assuming this is an Ellis creation, is it Black Air?
Yeah, it's Black Air. They're the successors to Who?
Yes, they've taken over Who, the Weird Happenings organization. We have Amanda Sefton's mother is a member of the London Hellfire Club. And
spoiler alert. Marigold Sazolus. Sazdos. I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's the Red Queen, and she stole the Soul Sword from Amanda Sefton, who is keeping it safe.
And is also
murder everyone on the Winding Way so she could be the best magician.
She's also in possession of Douglock's head.
They cut off Douglock's head.
Oh, jeez. Just when you're beginning to like Douglock.
Douglock is fine, by the way. He's good. He is just headless, but because he's a good robot boy who thinks he's not just Warlock, but Warlock with Doug's memories, even though he's just Warlock. So he can be just a head. He's okay with it. But Margot uses that head and magic to unleash a actual demon.
Yes, with actual hellfire, blasting into the streets of London, spreading madness. People are beating up on each other, killing each other, though that's not illustrated particularly well. You kind of have to read between the lines.
Yeah, speaking of illustration, we got a grab bag of artists here. Carlos Pacheco and Casey Jones do a lot of the work on these 2 issues, or these 5 issues. But we also get a little bit of pencils from Randy Green and Rob Haynes. This isn't my favorite art. It's fine.
Yeah, Pacheco is not inked by Cam Smith here, as he was on the Bishop miniseries, and it shows. I think he's got Bob Wyacek doing inks on 96. I'm not sure who's inking him on his other issues, but the art is interesting. There's some interesting facial expressions that go through some of these scenes, some interesting illustrations of anatomy that are odd, to say the least, especially when it comes to Megan.
Nightcrawler gets a new outfit too, which is
fun.
Oh
yeah, he looks great. He's got sort of a more swashbuckly kind of thing going on.
This is goatee Nightcrawler.
Yes, he shaved his head. He's got a little beard going on.
It's adorable.
Sure, why not? I don't know if I think reading this and having previously read Pride and Wisdom, I don't know if I'm starting to become very, very opposed to Warren Ellis's writing in general. This isn't as bad as Pride and Wisdom, but it wasn't my favorite story, shall we say.
Here's what I'll say. Warren Ellis is probably he's up there with the most talented guys to do the worst work on X-Men. Because Warren Ellis has done a lot of X-Men in general, and none of it's great. I'm going to say that right now. Anyone who wants to jump and say, hold on, I think Ghost Boxes was really cool. Nah, guys. Nah, you're wrong. You can have that opinion. We're all allowed to have wrong opinions, but you're wrong.
I like the lineup of the team here. Pete Wisdom is around, but I do appreciate that he's basically being like messed with through the entire run by Lockheed. And
yeah,
even
when Pete Wisdom is done well, he's essentially what the Alan Davis Captain Britain was, where he's just the guy on the team who gets all the bad things happening to him, but it's funny.
Right. And so there's a stupid subplot with him needing to like duel it out with another assassin. And like, there's a little too much extra stuff thrown into these issues that we absolutely don't need. Like the whole thing could be streamlined. But it makes for a pretty serviceable story. I think Nightcrawler is pretty fun here.
Yeah, but I would agree. There's like 4 different plots going on because there's Brian infiltrating the Hellfire Club, which doesn't seem related to anything else that Excalibur is doing until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
There's the main Excalibur plot. There is, which is tied into a subplot of Pete Wisdom and being mad at some guy named Scratch from Black Air.
Right. You've got Mountjoy undercover for not a lot of plot reasons.
No, Mountjoy again is just here.
Right.
I feel like Carlos Pacheco just wanted to draw Mountjoy again.
Maybe, I guess.
And then there's Onslaught also happens. And the X-Men show up and find out that Charles Xavier secretly kept some Xavier files about murdering all of the X-Men all the time. They were technically called the Xavier Protocols, and when I started my website, I had a lot of people asking me if I was going to think about different ways to kill the X-Men, and I said, no, that's a bad plot point. But he essentially does Tower of Babel from JLA, but it goes nowhere. It just is more saying, Charles Xavier, kind of a jerk, right?
Well, it's pretty wild that, out of this already complicated story, we have to have a couple pages set aside for the 90s X-Men team to show up on Muir Island for what appears to be a pretty good failsafe. Xavier has figured out a way to, leave plans for a suit that's going to allow them to kill himself, who has been turned into Onslaught. But then when Angel walks into the room, it's like, oh yeah, here's how to kill Wolverine. And here's how to kill this guy. And here's how to kill this guy. So it's a fun little note, but it is also very strange that it's in the pages of Excalibur and has absolutely no reason for being in this book with this particular arc.
How you kill Wolverine?
Yeah, what does he say? You got to decapitate him?
You chop off his head and then you put his head in the safe so his head and his body can't meet back up.
Right. Which I don't know if that would work. But
I don't think we actually explained for people who don't know about Onslaught. Onslaught's horrible. It's this time that you remember in Fatal Attraction when Xavier was like, "No more Magnus, no more," and he mind wiped him.
Yeah.
Well, technically, a small part of Magnus got mixed in with Xavier and all of Xavier's evil bad sides, since he was an evil bad boy his entire life. And then he turned into a giant. A giant
Magneto monster.
He is a super shredder, but for Magneto. That's what he is.
I never thought about it that way, but that is very...
Am I wrong? Am I wrong? That's all he is.
Yeah.
He's super shredder Magneto.
He drank the ooze.
Yeah, so Charles Xavier drank the ooze, and I've read Onslaught. The plot is incomprehensible. He's just evil and psychic and bad, and then the Avengers jump into his body, but mutants can't jump into his body for reasons.
Oh boy.
Except for Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, because they wanted them in the Avengers books.
Oh man. It is a thing.
It only complicates this Excalibur story, which is already super complicated.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of, I don't know. It's a mess. It has it has some fun things in it though that, you know, I didn't really love the first issue, but once I got into it, I was like, this is kind of fun. Like there's a tongue-in-cheek quality to the fact that there is a Hellfire Club that is literally plotting to contaminate the earth with hellfire. So
yeah, that's great.
I appreciate that. You know what I mean?
I agree. I like some of the ideas in this. Like, I think they're fun comic book ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Not incredibly well executed ones.
No. The story seems overly complicated. It's, you know, anyway. So on our list, we have, well, what are we up to now, Zach? We're up to
212.
Yeah.
213.
213 stories. Wow.
Yeah, it's starting with Days of Future Past at 1, the first arc of X Statics at 25, Giant Size X-Men number 1 at 50, what's at 100? Extraordinary X-Men 17, which is a good issue. That arc from Ultimate Spider-Man where him and Wolverine switch bodies is at 125. At 150 is the first issue ever of X-Men, and maybe that's a little high now that I think about it.
It's important.
At 200 is the first arc of X Factor, and then there's 12 worse stories.
Yes, with bottoming out at the Draco at 213. Now we have Pride and Wisdom, another Warren Ellis era creation, at 190. So ranking quite low.
This is better than Pride and Wisdom.
I agree. It absolutely is. And where do we have that Excalibur go to a bar issue? Because that's not too far before this one.
No.
This arc
is better than this one.
That is a lot better. Yeah. So that's at 117. So we know we're somewhere in that realm.
This isn't better than Final Sanction, the Phalanx Covenant story at 143.
No, I would go a lot lower on this. In fact, like even at 175, we have Shatterstar and Adam X versus Arcade. I think that might be more fun than this.
Are you talking about that time that Adam X the Extreme is back and that things had never been deadlier?
I sure am. I think this is more on par with, say, at 177, the Cable arc, the Genosha arc, The Long Way Home. I think that's
I like
more
the Cable
comparable.
arc better.
I do too. But you know, similar kind of level of quality, shall we say.
Here's what I'd say. I've got an idea. Right below, or a couple spots below that, at 180 is Curse of the Mutants, which I hate. 181 is Judgment War, which I don't see the appeal of. Right. I think this goes right in between those two.
That's a good place for it. You know, this is it's manageable. It has some fun elements, but it ain't great. So what are we calling this?
London Burning.
London Burning. That makes sense because it is in this.
I think that's the name, or that's on something on the first issue. It doesn't matter.
I believe you.
Yeah, trust me here. So that sure was a story, and we've got more. Hey everyone. So that was a really fun talk about Excalibur. I think we had a lot of great times and laughs. We still have 2 more stories, and here's the thing. We already talked about them.
Yeah, at length.
And it was a good episode. But then the file got corrupted through various ways and means. So we're just redoing the last two stories. So just wanted to be fully transparent with you. You guys won't know the difference, but I just want you to know, as you're listening to this deep down in your hearts, Adam and I are just living Groundhog Day.
Yes. And if you were following me on social media, guys, you've maybe heard a little clip of what the audio sounded like on my end. It was whack. It was pitch shifting me and clipping in and out. It was nuts. So we should be better now.
It got past the point of like usability.
Yeah, it was rough. Anyway, so we were talking about the Hellfire Club and some weird manifestations of it. We stopped with the Excalibur storyline about the London Hellfire Club. What do we have up next here, Zach?
Next, we have a very innovative, let's say, version of the Hellfire Club. You know, sometimes when like the Muppets have just been stale for too long.
Yeah.
And they decide, you know what's going to be a real big sales boost here for Muppets? Let's make them babies.
Yeah. Yes. Wait, is this is the Hellfire babies?
It's not, though. That's something I'm pretty sure Mojo already has taken care of. This is the teeny tiny Hellfire Squad, who started their own school in Wolverine and the X-Men 30 through 35, the Hellfire Saga.
Oh boy. You a fan of the Hellfire Club for kids here, Zach?
I am not. I'm aware that there are some people who are, but this is not one of my favorite Jason Aaron ideas. And let me tell you something. I like Jason Aaron as a writer in general. Like, I actually just got a couple of volumes of his Thor series that I had been missing. In between when we recorded this episode the first time and now. So I'm willing to say I'm a Jason Aaron fan. I think there's a very fine line for Jason Aaron, a line between brilliant and stupid. And he lives on that line and sometimes falls on either side of it.
Yeah, there are moments in this particular arc that fall on both sides of that line, and a lot of it, unfortunately, does kind of fall on the maybe way too far side of the line.
Yeah, so this is not just Jason Aaron. We also have on the first issue, we have Pascal Ferry, Salvador Espen, and for a couple of pages, Pepe Larraz.
Right.
And then Nick Bradshaw does the rest of the issue. And I think first things first, Nick Bradshaw's art is real strong in this, especially when he's allowed to let loose near the end. There is these beautiful fight pages between Krakoa, as in the X-Men's lawn, a bunch of volcano Krakoas who are evil, and also Iceman in a Voltron.
Yeah, Iceman's got his own Voltron. I mean, I think that is really where Jason Aaron shines, is when he totally goes heavy metal and it works. There's other aspects of this that they don't really work. This is the mirror universe version of the first couple of issues of this series. And we've got some villain faculty here that, are basically included as punchlines, like Master Pandemonium.
the guy with babies for hands?
Yes.
With the souls of Scarlet Witch's babies?
Oh, so weird. And so that like the inclusion of Master Pandemonium is a punchline. And then there are other things here that are just confusing, like Mystique is here for some reason.
Oh, because, she didn't have enough money to buy her own island, regardless of the fact that she literally did that, like, within 2 or 3 months of that happening in Bendis's Uncanny.
Yeah. It's that kind of like out of sync quality to this story that makes it kind of difficult to parse, because it does not line up with what we saw in the Bendis run, unfortunately.
Yeah, and there's a couple things about it that I'm not a huge fan of how it gets set up, because essentially what happens is way back uh, at kind of like the midpoint of this run,
Mhm.
Brew, the Brood, who's a nice good boy and very smart, got shot in the head by a teenager in the Hellfire Club. Not even teenager, a 12-year-old. Cade Kilgore, the 12-year-old boy genius. I hate
Yeah,
him.
he's one of the several children running the Hellfire Club, including an
Including a
ancestor of
Frankenstein.
yeah, all right. Which was kind of a funny joke in the first arc of Wolverine and the X-Men, but yeah, you're right. So that was an ongoing mystery: was who shot Brew, and real that's what gets Edie Conquo to come to this Hellfire school, correct?
Yeah, that's Edie's motivation. And then Quentin Quire's motivation is because he loves Edie and he wants to help her out. Brew's motivation is to eat things. Uh, and then Cade Kilgore gets this weird motivation uh, he's starting the school so that people are afraid of mutants and that the world has a supply of mutant supervillains so that he can continue to sell Sentinels, which, like, maybe throw your marketing dollars somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a bit of a leap, to hire Xanto,
Xantos Starblood.
Xanto Starblood.
Dr. Xantos
I'm sorry,
Starblood.
Doctor Santos.
The foremost authority on the Brood.
Yeah, very odd sales tactic, if that's really what the bottom line was. The goal of having this school. And
I think his goal was actually just to get Heidi in fetish wear. The 14-year-old Heidi.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, very unfortunate.
that happens. It's not great.
Well, and we had talked about this the first time we recorded, was that, it boils down to sort of this strange love square. We have Cade and Quentin kind of fighting over Edie. Edie really cares about Brew, which is why they're there. And that is supposed to be sort of like the underlying thing happening here, while the rest of the X-Men come and try and save them. But I don't know. Like, Jason Aaron's being very specific about the fact in narration that Edie is 14, and at the same time she's then being asked to dress in the black lingerie of a Hellfire Club member and of a Black Queen, and it's weird. It's weird, icky.
Yeah, it's not great. Edie's young. We try not to sexualize her, and we failed at that part. So bad job, Marvel. But I do think this story has some fun stuff. Like, I like the weird secondary antagonist that's in here, the Philistine.
Well, it's important to remember that this is a Siege Perilous story.
Except for the Siege Perilous, which we all know is the magic mirror thing that sends people to their heart's true desire. Something dumb. I forget whatever it does.
It makes Colossus a painter in New York with a ponytail.
Yeah, and it's definitely not the seat at the unfilled seat at the round table of King Arthur. But it's essentially like the Black Vortex from that bad crossover in this series, right? Like, it just gives people power-ups and mind controls them.
Yeah. There's a kid that sneezes a lot, and he gets transformed into like the Hulk just by
His name
going.
is Snot.
Yeah, Snot.
Please treat him with respect.
So yeah, it's treated as a power-up machine, and it later apparently traps Cade Kilgore, and that's not what we know the Siege to be. But hey, that's how it's used here.
Yeah, so that's a choice. It's the storytelling in this is a little odd. Like, I know this is essentially the culmination of Jason Aaron's run on Wolverine and the X-Men, even though his run would go on for like another 8 issues or something. But this is kind of the real ending point of it.
Yeah, I think that's important to point out, is that, by being the bookend to the first arc of the series, this really does seem to want to wrap the series up before you get into Battle of the Atom. Even it goes so far as at the end of the last issue, you have the Nightcrawler cameo, like saying, "Hey, it's time for me to come back to life."
Yeah, teasing amazing
Right.
X-Men.
Yeah.
Which one Amazing X-Men? I don't think we talked about this when we did the Quest for Nightcrawler story. Amazing X-Men was definitely supposed to be a big deal, and then Jason Aaron got told, "Hey, we have Star Wars now. You're going to do that."
Right. We're going to relaunch Star Wars. So, that Nightcrawler plan that you had, it's going to last for a couple issues and forget about it. So I think that this succeeds in some ways. Like you were talking about the amazing Nick Bradshaw art that's here. It's great.
Mhm.
But from a storytelling perspective, I think we've talked in the past about how sometimes things land for Aaron here and sometimes they don't. Sometimes the comedy works. And here it's definitely a mixed bag.
Right. So because we already recorded this, we have this on our list already. So I don't think we're going to pretend like we don't know where this is ending up.
I was gonna say, like, it doesn't make much sense for us to argue about where it should go.
But I think we should go through a couple of our logical steps that we got there so people understand where our mindset was.
Yeah, I think we started at 93 because there's a Wolverine in the X-Men.
Well, it's technically 92 right now in the podcast continuity.
Oh,
because,
sorry.
Spoiler alert, guys, our third story is better than this.
Yes. So at 92, we had Wolverine in the X-Men 5-7, which was the arc where Kitty got pregnant with Brood.
Not Brew, just like
right.
Rude.
Micro little guys.
The xenomorphs.
Yes.
Kitty had xenomorphs inside her.
It was weird.
It was weird.
But it was better than this. So where did we go next?
We started going down the list, finding stuff that we thought was better or worse than it. Like we liked the continuity story better at 101, and we liked the new X-Men Childhood's End / Crusade stuff at 107 better. And we liked Uncanny X-Men 268 Madripoor Nights more, but we thought that this was stronger than the Negative Zone War arc in X-Men Gold, which made this our new 114.
There you go. Yeah, and I think that's a good place for it on the list. It's definitely, if you're a Wolverine and the X-Men fan, if you're a Nick Bradshaw fan, if you like Jason Aaron's sense of humor, check this out. It does have some value. It's just a little uneven for our tastes, I think.
Yeah, that whole run is uneven for my taste. Like, I get it. I get that people love Wolverine and the X-Men. It ain't for me, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the arc. There's some times where it's really working, and this one is all over the place.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, I'd say, speaking of a story that is really working,
yeah,
let's talk about our last story on this list today.
Ooh, yes. What is this one, Zach? Because we got one more wacky formation of the Hellfire Club here.
Yeah, so this is a Hellfire Club that includes Negasonic Teenage Warhead, a character who, like, people know, which is buck wild.
Two blockbuster movies.
Two blockbuster movies of Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and no one else. That's
wild.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead solo stories, and, we wish them all the best. No. We're obviously talking about Deadpool. But no, so this is a Hellfire Club of Negasonic Teenage Warhead, The Perfection, who is a mysterious hooded person, Sebastian Shaw, Cassandra Nova, and Emma Frost. But Emma Frost, when it would be weird for her to still be in the Hellfire Club.
Yeah. So right off the bat, we're starting in Astonishing X-Men number 13. If you've never read Astonishing X-Men, it's Joss Whedon, it's John Cassaday on art, and we are getting the idea right off the bat from page 1 that Emma might be a sleeper agent, that Cassandra Nova maybe hijacked her before her Genoshan genocide, and maybe even provided her with her secondary diamond mutation.
Yeah, which is a lot. So Emma in this run in particular starts out like inviting Kitty to rejoin the team because she knows that Kitty will watch her back because Emma doesn't trust herself. She says, what's the line? It's, I like being a hero, but it doesn't always agree with me or something like that.
Yeah, Kitty is basically there because Emma wants her to be the safeguard, just in case Emma ever falls out of line. She is expecting Kitty to, keep her in line.
Yeah, and so in this story, Emma falls out of line.
Oh yeah, big time, and hijacks the team basically.
Yeah, using her good psychic powers, she sends Cyclops to the Black Bug Room and removes his power. The Black Bug Room is a room with 3 black bugs. In case anyone's curious,
Yep.
everyone has their own Black Bug Room. This one just happens to be Scott's.
Mm-hmm.
She has Colossus beat himself up. She turns Wolverine into a little dandy boy from back when he was, James Hallett.
Beast goes feral. Now, it's important to realize that there's a bait and switch here because we don't necessarily realize what's going on until later in the arc. At first, we believe that the various members of the Hellfire Club are attacking the different members of the X-Men. But spoiler alert, if you've never read this arc, it's Emma. She's she's doing it all.
Well, yes, but Emma is also getting played.
Yes, because the goal here is Cassandra Nova has hijacked her to help rescue the little slug body that was encased in the metal case in the basement of the X-Mansion in the Morrison era.
Yeah, dang, what's that guy's name? Because he was a member of the Shi'ar Guard.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, you know that's just the body of whatever Cassandra Nova
right
possessed.
Yeah.
Last.
Uh-huh.
Oh, dang.
Little slug dude.
What's his name? Stuff. His name was Stuff.
That's so Grant Morrison.
It's a very Grant Morrison idea. So anyway, Stuff is hanging out in a box, being possessed by Cassandra Nova, and no one can break into the box. It's mutant proof, except for someone who could walk through walls. So Cassandra Nova, leaving a tiny sliver of her inside of Emma from before she got boxed. It's all referenced in the Grant Morrison stuff. Go read that if you want to know why. Just assume it happens. Anyway, Cassandra Nova possesses Emma to trick Kitty into thinking that Kitty and Colossus had a child that the X-Men took away because it was a dangerous mutant that would destroy the world or something, and Kitty goes on a rampage!
Yeah. This is definitely a, Whedon writing Kitty as Buffy kind of situation.
No, Whedon wrote Buffy as Kitty. Let's be very, very clear about that one. Joss Whedon has straight up said, oh yeah, no, I just really liked Kitty Pryde, so that's what Buffy is.
Yeah, but in this particular series so far, we really haven't gotten a chance to see Kitty kick butt. And this is where we get to see that because we see Kitty put Emma Frost in essentially a hole underground where Emma assumes she's just going to die, and just kick some butt, really. Unfortunately, though, as you said, she's been so manipulated with this, this dead child scenario that she actually does pull the slug out of the box with her phasing powers. So, but this is a weird story because it doesn't get resolved.
Yeah, that's the thing, because there's a secondary story that's going on at this point.
Yes.
Up in Sword. You know about Sword, right? You know
yes.
how
Intergalactic Shield.
Yeah, you know how Shield protects people on Earth? Sword fights aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great. Anyway, Sword has Ord of Breakworld. And Ord wants to destroy all mutants, but now specifically Colossus, because he has found out that Colossus is the one prophesied to destroy the Breakworld.
Right. And Danger is there. It's Sword
the
headquarters
living Danger Room
in space to break Ord out and to abduct the X-Men. Well, no, that's to get Colossus. That's essentially what they're there to do. But the series, this arc ends with Sword just taking everybody onto their giant spaceship and heading to Breakworld. So,
and presuming that Cassandra Nova got taken care of,
right? But we don't know that. and it's not resolved in the next arc.
which
So
which is kind of to the detriment of this story. If you read it closely, it looks like Whedon was setting it up for that Cassandra Nova potentially living on inside of Armor, who, by the way, this arc is a really good arc for Armor and lets her stand out and grow as a character in ways I really enjoy. It also gets a lot more attention spent on Blindfold, both of whom are characters I really like.
Yeah. Well, I think what works really, really well here is that Joss Whedon is juggling all of these storylines. You know, he's doing the sword Ord danger thing in the background, which is very dramatic. You know, you have Ord like jumping out of the side of a spaceship. You have all of the Emma Frost stuff, which the reader does not realize what's going on. You have all of these visions of Kitty. You have the storylines of Armor and Blindfold, and all of it just works so well together. You know, I feel like he's juggling these storylines, and it's executed very, very well.
Yeah, I really do admire the pacing on the story. Obviously, John Cassaday's art is incredible.
Oh, it's outstanding.
He gets cinematic, you know, quote unquote widescreen comics. He does that very, very well.
Yeah, just the mood of the story is great from beat to beat. You know, his fight scenes are terrific when feral beast ends up going after Wolverine, who's a child in Wolverine's body. It's just crazy. And there are a couple of like really great reveals as we go through here. Like Perfection turns out to be original recipe Emma Frost. You know, and I don't know.
No, the best reveal. I forgot. We already talked about this a few days ago, but I want to bring it back again because it's still great. It's when Cyclops shows up and he shoots. Does he shoot Perfection? Is that the one he shoots first?
Let's see. He shoots. Yeah, he shoots the original Emma Frost.
And by the way, Cyclops doesn't shoot him with his laser eyes. He shoots him with a gun with bullets.
Yeah, you won't believe the day I'm having. That's what he says.
Hiya, Pete. Oh, it's so good. He's wearing his jacket. And guys, Jacket Cyclops is very good. Like, you know how you could have made the Bendis Bachelot revolutionary Cyclops costume better? Give him a jacket.
Give him a motorcycle jacket? Why not?
Put a jacket on that guy. It'd be great. Nah, but it's a great scene. There's a lot of good fun in it. Now, for me, this is the weakest of the Whedon Astonishing. I think while there's a lot going on, it doesn't hit as well for me. Adam, you like this more than Dangerous.
I did. One of the things that we talked about the other day when we recorded was that I was kind of astounded reading this because when you hear about these stories of Joss Whedon having like just a complete breakdown as he's making Age of Ultron, because he has to juggle all of the storylines, he has to set up the next however many Marvel movies, and direct this massive thing with these effects and set pieces, you forget that at the core he's a very, very talented writer. Character flaws aside, Joss, is very capable of juggling this kind of material and getting the characters very, very right. So I enjoy this great. It has humorous moments, especially with, even though Wolverine has the, his little baby Jamie Howlett personality is a little racist.
Little bit.
Especially his interactions with Armor. But he gets the characters. And I just think that, the way this is put together is just a tick above Dangerous for me. And that's where we started when we talked about ranking it, because we had Astonishing at number 34.
That's Astonishing. Dangerous.
Yeah.
I would put this, if we're going to do that, I'd say we'd go just a little bit higher because for me, I think this is definitely not better than New X-Men 127, the Zorn issue.
Yeah, I think that was my ceiling when we first talked about ranking this, and then you held out for X Club. You championed X Club.
I do love X Club. You know that there's a psychic starfish in X Club?
Yes.
And it tells us all of Dr. Nemesis's greatest thoughts. Man, can you imagine if Grant Morrison wrote Dr. Nemesis?
Oh man, that'd be
Grant
great.
Morrison would have been the one to say, let's take him from freaking wherever he was, I guess public domain, and do something with him. Oh, that would have been good, but he didn't because he was a coward or something. Oh,
that's okay. Man. He had a lot of his own stuff going on, so
I guess he's a little creative. Anyway, we put that above X-Men Legacy 300.
Yes, it made it our new 32, Astonishing X-Men Torn. So very good showing for Whedon's Astonishing again.
Yeah, and that does it for this list. I think this was fun. It was an episode so nice we had to record it twice.
Yeah, God, the freaking internet, man. It's just not always as reliable as you would like. But yeah, I'm glad that we got back together and then we talked about the Hellfire Club a little bit more. I think the original episode, we ended up talking about Christmas songs for some reason.
Yeah. Oh, because here's why. Because, folks.
Why was that?
Because first off, I want to thank Eric Casson. Eric went over to patreon.com/XavierFiles. He threw in some money so that we could rank Hellfire Club episodes on this entire stories on this episode. If you want to be like Eric, you can throw some money at us. We're trying to figure out what our next tiers for the Patreon stuff is going to be.
Right.
We talked about doing a Christmas album because we definitely are booked up on Patreon right now up through Christmas.
That's crazy. So
if you've got something you would like us to talk about, like let's throw that up there and let's see what happens, guys. And then I think we mentioned Jordan White should be on our Christmas album. That's how that tangent that only Adam and I know about.
Yes, I think we recommended that Jordan jump onto our version of Christmas Island, which you had never heard of.
Version. Yeah, like I knew what song you were talking about.
So I think I sang a little bit of it, but anyway, that was what you missed, guys.
Yeah. Anyway, again, thanks, Eric. Thanks to everyone else on Patreon. If you like the show, leave a review, or more than that, maybe just tell a friend. Say, hey, here's the show I like, or share it on social media, or whatever. It helps us out. What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Speaking of social media, I'm on social media at Xavier Files on Twitter. Also, XavierFiles.com is the website with all of our stuff.
Aren't you going to be at a convention soon?
I am going to be at a convention soon. So I am going to be at table T12 in the very back corner of the Gem City Comic Con in Dayton, Ohio. I'm tabling with friend of the show, friend of me, Luke Hare. I'm also giving a presentation about bad comics and how we should talk about bad comics, which is really actually just like how we should talk about bad media in general, but it's a comic convention. So
love it.
So that's going to be Saturday morning in convention or in whatever Hall B. Also Luke, because he's a bad person,
he's going to be dressing up like a lizard.
He's going to be dressed as the lizard from the 2012 feature film, The Amazing Spider-Man, because somehow he convinced people to give him like $90. So I've got to live with that.
It's a good gag.
Is it? I'm still not sure.
I don't know. Anyway, it's going to be weird.
I'm going to have like buttons and some zines. I'm going to have physical copies of the Xavier Files zine that a lot of people helped with. They're going to be on just regular paper because that's what the UPS store can print out quickly. And then also I'm going to have the Wolverine in Adamantium Chef comics. And then I'm going to be drawing pictures of your favorite X-Men's. So show up if you're in the greater Ohio area. Adam, where can people find you?
All right, guys, you can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy. I've got new pages of Bish and Jubes, The Cross Time Conundrum, every X-Men Monday at adamrec.tumblr.com.
Yes, he does, and it's very good. So next week we're going to be talking about times the New Mutants died.
Oh boy, that seems to happen quite a bit.
Yeah, man, it's a lot. We found 3 different New Mutant stories about death. One of them's super good. The other one's also good. Another one's maybe not.
We'll get there.
But until then, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!